So, and I've been out to Halston. So pretty. Look at that. So it reminds me of France actually. I'm going to see if I can do a really quick sketch.
I always carry a painting kit when I'm out and about, just in case I come across beautiful scenes like this.
Tiny little kit here. Brush with some water in. They're really handy. Pencil and some pens. Oh.
To make it easily transportable, I always go for the smaller options. Make it compact and light to keep in your bag or wherever you're going to have it. You can get most of these. I think Winsor & Newton do a really nice little Pleinair kit, painting kit, watercolours. There's other brands as well. You can order them off Amazon or Hobbycraft you can go to. Lots of paint shops. They normally all stock the supplies. I'll pop some links below in the comments. Here I'm just sketching out a really rough outline of the shapes that I can see. The lines will act as a guide when I'm applying the paint. It's not set in stone, and I make them quite light so I can change the composition when I'm painting if I feel it needs it. It's not 100% accurate either. If I wanted that, I'd take a photo. It's my interpretation of what I'm seeing and how I feel when I'm looking at the scene, what it makes me feel. And that's the beauty about painting. It's very personal and it can be whatever you want it to be. I love these little sketches, and when I look at them, it always takes me right back to where I sat painting them, and just relive that experience, more so than any photo really. And it helps with your observational skills, and just spending time in nature is good for your mental health. Here I'm using one of the pre-filled water brushes. They're brilliant, so I don't need a pot of water. I can just squeeze the pen and wet the page in preparation to applying the paint. Another thing to bear in mind is when you're buying a watercolour sketchbook is to make sure it's got good paper. As a general guide, the heavier the weight of the paper, the better. This one is made from rags. It's cold compress, and as you can see, it doesn't buckle at all when I'm applying water and paint. So if you use just normal paper, you'll find that it might buckle and tear. So obviously investing in good quality notebook, watercolour notebook, is essential. Applying first layers here, my lightest layers, that lovely yellow rapeseed. I'm painting quite loosely. You can see where I've applied water to the paper already. It flows nicely and it keeps the white where I haven't applied the water, so in this way you can control the flow of the paint. Tilting the page slightly here so the green runs downwards and doesn't flow into that lovely yellow. Adding some yellow ochre just to vary up the greens. And you can see I've added I've got a bit too much water here, and I normally should really just mop that up just to keep your edges nice and clean. With a tissue, I haven't, I've just let it run. I'm using cobalt blue paint, a very watered down wash, just to paint in the sky, leaving white spots just to define the cloud. You could also use your paintbrush, a dry paintbrush, just to lift the areas as well to allow the white to show through, or a piece of tissue paper. Just painting in the trees in the background and keeping them loose, quite blended, same colour as the sky, it's just less diluted paint, so it's a bit darker, but the coolness and that the same hue as the sky will mean that it pushes those trees back into the distance, giving you a good sense of perspective with your painting. Starting to warm up the blues a little bit by adding a little bit of yellow as it comes forward in the mid-ground here. I always have a pack of tissues in my kit as well, so I can sort of blot up any water, excess water on the painting. You can see I've got some gathering here just in the left hand corner. I need to clean up. Here I'm just darkening the background trees, and you can see that the contrast between the light and dark is more visible, and that line really draws your eye far back into the distance. The foreground trees are the darkest sort of feature in this painting, and they should be the most saturated because they're the nearest to you. So I'm starting off with the yellow just to mark out the highlights, and I'll go darker, adding more colour. The paper's still wet where I'm painting the trees, the foreground trees, and this allows me to just drop in colours. I'm not pre-mixing, I'm just adding here, I think it's Prussian blue, And then later some red, and it makes this lovely dark grey, and later some green, and I'll mix some cells on the paper and get some really interesting effects rather than pre-mixing the paint. Starting to rush here a bit as well, as I'm on a time limit as babysitting my grandchildren, so speeding up the painting a bit.
I could do some pen and ink over the top of this with this, but I'm not going to because I haven't got enough time. But I'm really happy. It's been lovely sitting here for 5 minutes painting and just listening to the sound of the trees. It's been lovely. So this is my sketch on the road to Harleston in Norfolk, sitting by a field, listening to the trees and the leaves rustling with the breeze. See, that's what difference, if you're painting in the shade and painting in the light, that's what difference it makes. But yeah, how lovely is that?